Okay. And, yeah, let's start working on, oh, wrong one. You go there. Let's start working on the second set, because I might be able to get through this a little quicker, something. Anyway, um, yeah, so welcome to Starter 99, which I did not expect to be able to start, lol. I did not expect to be able to start doing now. But I'm like, yeah, why not? I still have some time. I might be able to do this quickly enough. Let's see what happens. Veteran Cavalier. Thankfully, this is at the time when Wizards of the Coast had realized some of the experimentation they had done with the Portal sets didn't work out as well as they were hoping. For example, if you notice from Train Cheetah, let's just pop this up on a separate page. Train Cheetah has got these icons down here for power and toughness, and similar icons up here. They weren't really needed. It was like an additional complexity that was not actually really needed in this set. Um, and so by the time they went to Starter 99, they got rid of those, and it's just the way I always explained it to people is you've got two numbers in the bottom left corner, or the bottom right corner. The first number is how much damage it deals out in combat. The second is how much it takes to kill it before for it to die. You don't need to explain anything fancy. It's that simple. And so Veteran Cavalier is now back to being printed just as a 2/2. 2 mana for a 2/2 with vigilance. Nothing fancy, and as we pointed out earlier, easily replaceable. However, this is at the point where you're starting to get a 2/2 vigilance for 2, compared to I believe it was a 3 mana version in Portal 3 Kingdoms. Let's see if I can find you quickly. Yep, 3 mana for a 2/2 with vigilance. Well, now we've dropped it down to double white for a 2/2. In 9th edition, this became common. Slowly working its way. We're now at the point where you can get it for white +1, but also you were getting, like for white +1, you can get a 1/2 with vigilance and other stuff like flying, for example. But not an unreasonable start. If you're looking for something like this is an okay card to put in. If you have a card like this, it's okay to put in. I'm not thrilled with it, but it's okay. Ardent Militia, 5 mana for a 2/5 vigilance. Again, averages to about a 3/4. Keep in mind, this was uncommon. At this point, Sarah Angel had, I believe, been promoted to rare. But you're looking at tweak the mana to 2 white +3 instead of 1 white +4. And instead of something that works out to a 3/4 with vigilance, you have a 4/4, so an extra point of power, and flying, which is a big deal. but again, had been originally printed at uncommon, had been traded, it and Sengir Vampire had been considered strong enough by players because we didn't have the internet to be able to look up how good cards were all the time. It was considered, we were treating it like a common or like a rare because yes, it's uncommon, but it's better than most uncommons. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to do that. But we turned around and said, well, our militia, this is an uncommon. We're losing a point of power and we're losing flying. No. Place Air Angel over this easily. But it's got 5 toughness. Well, suddenly that's not as easy a comparison. Plus, it's 4 colorless mana, which means this can, depending on what kind of cards you're playing with, be dropped all the way to casting it for a single mana. If you have, for example, Oketra's Monument and Pearl Medallion and, a couple, if you've got enough other cost reducers, nope, Stormscape Familiar, and, stuff of that nature, you can bring it down to being able to cast it for a single white mana. At which point, then it's insane. I think if you get this for a 1 mana discount, bring it down to 4, you're doing okay. If you get a 2 mana discount, you're doing great. Any more than a 2 mana discount, this thing's just nuts. You bring it down to a 1 mana 2/5 vigilance, it's. You should be getting refunds by that point. Road Trooper. Same kind of problem I mentioned earlier with the Trained Cheetah, where it's like a 3 mana 2/2, and if it's blocked, it gets a bonus. This is a 3 mana 2/2. Whenever it blocks, it gets +2/+2 till end of turn. This is better. It's not, +1/+1, but whenever it blocks. But this is whenever it blocks, not whenever it blocks a creature. Again, the distinction being whenever it blocks a creature, if it blocks 2 creatures, it would get this bonus twice. It's been declared as a blocker. Okay. Again, would generally play a 3/3 instead. Might be able to swing into a 3/4. I know you can get a 2/4 for this. Might be able to get a 3/4. If you're looking at higher rarities, then you can probably get to a 4/4. But at the very least, like, you should be looking at a 3/3 with some kind of bonus. Like a 3/3 or first strike, maybe. That being said, compared to this, I would probably play White Knight. And just get 2/2 first strike protection from black and call it a day. Royal Falcon. This was at the point when we felt that a 1/1 flyer for 1 mana was really strong. The problem is Stormcrow, which heavily gets memed on, was better than this card. It was blue, so the common joke about, hey, by the way, this means it can pitch a Force of Will. Plus, it had an extra point of toughness at the same cost. It was blue +1 for a 1/2 flyer. It would take a couple more sets for Suntail Hawk to come out. Or a couple more years for Suntail Hawk to come out. It might have been the following year. 2002. Yeah, 3 more years. Because this originally got printed in 99. And they would shave an entire mana off. Not a big deal, right? Not a big deal. Yeah, don't play unless you've got flavor reasons or, you know, non-mechanical reasons to play it. Are you playing a Critchlow deck? If you're playing a Carl Critchlow deck, you might be playing it. But realistically, no, just don't. Foot Soldiers. 1 white, 3 other for 2/4. We covered that when we did. I'm pretty sure we covered that when we did Portal. Should be able to do better than that. Like a 3/3 is going to be better than this most of the time. You should be able to get like a 3/4. You can probably get a 4/4 by now. Champion Lancer. 6 mana for a 3/3. I noticed a lot of these creatures so far are kind of on the small side. Like, I'm looking down. Like, I'm not seeing anything that's... Archangel's a 5/5. But that's the only creature I'm seeing that's legitimately bigger than 3/3. Like, bigger than 3 power. In white. In Starter 99. Prevent all damage that be dealt to this creature by creatures. Pretty scary ability. It is not going to take creature damage at all. Fight spell, that's nice. You know, fight/bite, that's nice. Come into playability, cool. And just doesn't care. Attack, block, cool. That's nice. The closest to anything that's bigger than a 3/3, or apart from Archangel, I'm seeing is Ardent Militia, and they'll just like trade against each other. They'll just chump block each other all day. Foot Soldiers is about the same size. Charging Paladin. When attacks get +0/+3 till end of turn. Again, if you go to, and we cover this, I think in Portal and Exodus, probably Exodus first. Would have been Exodus first. You're playing a Toughness Matters deck, you're playing like Arcades Saboth or Doran the Siege Tower or something of that nature. This is a 3 mana 5/5 in combat. Why wouldn't you? You wouldn't because you would have better cards than that. What? You wouldn't because you'd have better cards than that. For an extra white mana, you get Indomitable Ancients. For an extra colorless mana, you get a couple of 1/7s. And for this cost, you should be able to get like what? Probably at least a 0/6 or a 0/7. At which point you're like, because you can easily get a 0/4. You can easily get like Yoked Ox for 1 mana. So so in that kind of deck, why are you paying extra? You're paying extra because this, like the math I was doing earlier, with that black creature that whenever it attacks gets extra power. If you get extra combat steps in a Toughness Matters deck, and this thing keeps growing in its toughness, its first attack trigger is going to bring it to 5. Its second is going to be 8. So that's 13. Third time is going to be 11. So 13, 24. Its fourth one is going to be 14, which is already going to bring it to 38. If it's got an extra point of toughness from anything, like even charge, it'll push it over 40 damage. And if you've got Ishin, well, the first attack trigger is going to bring it to 8 toughness. The second attack trigger is going to bring it to 14, so that's already 22. And the third is going to bring it from, let's see here, 14 is going to be 20 by itself, so that's already going to save you an extra combat. You know, heaven forbid you've got ways to untap and attack more. And the thing is, because it only has 2 power, you have effects like, what do you call it? Are you the guy I'm thinking of? No, you're not the one I'm thinking of. Oh, duh. Dwarven Warriors. Target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. It only has 2 power. It gains toughness. Yeah. Will end up being really, really dumb. If you're not building that kind of deck, Border Guard is probably generically better. It's always going to be, like, if you're building a deck where you can duplicate its attack trigger, Charging Paladin is the better card. If you're not doing that, Border Guard might be better. I'm not saying it's good, but it'd probably be better. Yeah. But Charging Paladin, I think, is a better card overall. It attacks as a 2/5. Angel of Light. 3/3 Flying Vigilance. This is basically... This tries to be Sarah Angel. If you take a point... If you take 2 colorless... No, if you take 1 colorless mana off and make it white, you get Sarah Angel. And suddenly you get an extra point of power and an extra point of toughness. But if you're building around this pair of words, if you want a lot of your stuff to have flying and vigilance, it's not an unreasonable starting point. That's weird that they went with the Master's Edition. Why didn't they just... yeah. 6 of one, half a dozen the other. If you want all your creatures to be like that, you can do it. I would prefer all your creatures have flying, and then you find some kind of effect like, is it mobilization? Soldier creatures you control have vigilance. So if you've got flying soldiers, sort by color. Always watching. Non-token creatures you control get +1/+1, have vigilance. Brave the Sands does, actually, Brave the Sands does what I'm looking for and better. Um, Sarah's Blessing. Sarah's Blessing is the default version. Sarah's Guardian, really good. Um, Thraben Watcher would be fine. Is there... Yeah, and Angel's Trumpet. The beginning of each player's end step... Oh, that gives it to all creatures. Oh, that's funny. The beginning of each player's end step, tap all untapped creatures that player controls that didn't attack this turn. This artifact deals damage to the player equal to the number of creatures tapped this way. Oh, that's funny. Oh. This artifact deals damage to the player equal to the number of creatures tapped this way. That's funny. Okay. But yeah, giving them all, I mean, alternatively, give them all, make sure they've all got vigilance and then find a way to get them all flying. One way or the other would be relatively easy. But yeah. Obviously play Sarah Angel before this, but if you're looking for another Sarah Angel that's, easy to get your hands on, whatever, well, maybe easy to get your hands on isn't exactly accurate because it is it is from Starter 99. But, oh, Steadfastness? Steadfastness is in a in a toughness matters deck. This is almost overrun. So yeah, if you're looking at a toughness matters deck, consider a card like that. If there's an effect like that at instant, which there should be, yeah. But if you need to go far enough down the list to find enough playables, Steadfastness is okay. If you can find, even better if you can find a way to play them as an instant. There should be, and then you go, hey, by the way, thunk. Oh yeah, take an extra 27. Wait, what? Yeah. Devout Monk. When it enters, gain a life. A card like this doesn't look fancy at all. Remember what I was saying about life gain decks? Well, put it this way. Last stream, a life gain deck, there's two different categories. I want to gain a bunch of life at once, and there's certain effects like Sunbond that want that. Or I want to have a bunch of instances of life gain, and a Johnny's Pridemate wants that. A Johnny's Pridemate, in combination with like a Soul Warden effect, this will gain life twice because once creature coming into play will make a Soul Warden effect trigger, and then it comes into play and you gain life, so that's another trigger in and of itself, and a Johnny's Pridemate suddenly goes from a 2/2 to a 4/4. Ah, son of a potato. Please hold, I will be back in a moment. Share stream. Hello? Are you kidding me? Have I literally gone through that much? Alright. Well, I guess I'm redoing all that. Hello, Zero. Good grief. Okay. Let's try this again. Wow, I feel like a tomato. Alright. 967. I don't know. Something. Oh, my dog. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Uh. Wow. Alright. Well, try and be quick, because no offense, because I was getting through another set, and yeah. Okay, what's up? All right, let's try and zip through what I remember from saying here. I would be very careful with Mycosynth's Lattice, simply due to the fact that it combos very easily with a lot of other cards that can completely ruin the game for people. Um, as and the thing is, it doesn't even have to be your deck that's playing the other cards. If somebody's got any sort of like Stony Silence effect, for example, people suddenly can't tap their lands for mana. So, yeah. Um, I would generally say yes, but it combines with so many other cards in so many brutal ways. I would probably suggest against it. So, it's not the card, it's the fact that it interacts too easily with other stuff. All right, let's see if I can remember what I was saying about these. Veteran Cavalier. Uh, Fine card. Easy enough to find a 2/2 with vigilance that does other stuff these days. Even once you hit common. Um, not a bad card in of itself, but there should be better options for you. On the other hand, if you're number one thing to keep in mind, if you're playing a deck that's based on something other than the mechanical parts of it, you might be more interested in playing it. Are you playing an Arcade Post deck? Who incidentally I've met, and I've enjoyed talking to him. Um, yeah, then you might be more interested in playing it. Ardent Militia. I was trying to compare this to Sarah Angel. This does have a fifth point of toughness, so that does make it more playable than it might otherwise appear. Um, Toughness Matters might actually have an interest in this deck just because well, actually, no. The problem with this in Toughness Matters is compare something like Yoked Ox, which is a 1 mana 0/4. This is harder to find a home for. I would be more likely to play Veteran Cavaliers somewhere than the Ardent Militia. Road Trooper, when this blocks, uh, the problem with this is wanting to be able to get this to trigger more than once a turn, and that is really hard to pull off. You might as well have like a 3/3 or a 3/3, a 3/4, or just like a generic 4/4 in this slot. But again, anything that's based on stuff that's not part of the mechanics of it, suddenly you have more interest in unusual cards. Royal Falcon, 3 years later, I think it was Onslaught we mentioned, came out, and Suntail Hawk basically turned around and said, yeah, this isn't worth playing anymore. We were already at the point where, like, you could get, like, Stormcrow was a better card because it had a second point of toughness. And it wasn't even considered a good card. But that second point of toughness made a difference, and this was worse. No, for 2 mana, even back then, you should have got at least a 1/2 with flying. Foot soldiers. Might have to play out of necessity. Again, not generally recommend a card like this. This is basically a 3/3 for 4. But I think we looked over stuff, and this ended up being at the. If you're looking at white vanilla creatures, I think this actually was about right for that cost, even at that point. So, not a card I'd be excited to play, but it might be a card I'd have to play. Champion Lancer. The only white card in this set that's legitimately bigger than this, like more than 3 power, is, I believe it's Archangel, which is a 5/5. This is not a bad card. It's a little overcosted, but 6 mana for a 3/3. Prevent all damage to be dealt to this creature by creatures. So anything that's got a come into play trigger, a sack trigger, combat damage, whatever. If it's damage in any way, shape, or form being dealt by a creature, Champion Lancer does not care. In fact, this is the kind of card that you could put. Is it Guilty Conscience I'm thinking of? No, not Guilty Conscience. Pariah? All damage should be dealt to you instead dealt to enchant creature instead. Yeah, you throw Pariah on Champion Lancer, and you can just ignore being attacked, and all damage should be all combat damage will go to him, and he just goes shrug, don't care. It's like halfway to indestructible in that context, and just ends up being really good. Not something I brought up earlier, something I'm just realizing now. Charging Paladin. This is where some of that math came up. This was. Yeah, no? No. This is 4 attacks in the same turn can kill an opponent, and because it's only got 2 power, it can be made unblockable with things like Dwarven Warriors. Which I will just pull up again. Dwarven Warriors. Tap, target creature power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. Make the Charging Paladin unblockable and just go roar. Can I get 4 combat steps in? Cool, you're not stopping this. This is assuming you're also playing a Toughness Matters deck. So you'd have to be playing white, obviously, for this. You may have to play red, depends on what other cards you've got available, but an effect like Dwarven Warriors would just make this unblockable. And 4 hits with this assuming it can deal its toughness and damage instead of its power, would kill one person, and then probably 3 swings to a second, and yeah, you see how this goes. I would assume that within 10 attacks, assuming they all happen on the same turn, the rest of the table's dead. Border Guard. If you're not playing with the kind of deck where you can combo kill, so to speak, with Charging Paladin. Oh yeah, also being able to swap its parent toughness around, and then fling it at somebody afterward. Have fun with that. Border Guard. If you're not playing that kind of deck, this is probably generally better. But this is kind of a wash here. Angel of Light tries to be Sarah Angel. The big difference between this and Sarah Angel is this is 1 white plus 4 versus 2 white plus 3. For the slightly harder cost of 2 white plus 3, which at 5 mana, even if you're only playing 2 colors, if you're playing 2 colors, it should be easy enough. If you're playing 1 color, it doesn't matter. If you're playing 3 colors, you can probably still do it. For 2 white plus 3, you're getting an extra +1/+1. This is a slightly smaller Sarah Angel for a slightly easier cost. I would probably build with, if I wanted to do something like this, I'd probably find whatever flyers I could and find ways to give them vigilance. If they all happen to be soldiers, for example, mobilization is really good. I think it was Angel's Trumpet we saw, etc., etc. Steadfastness. If you can manage to pull this off as an instant, it's going to be insane. Again, especially a Toughness Matters deck. Even without that, there are enough cards that people play where the toughness is going to matter. If you're not playing a Toughness Matters deck, but you have a way to play stuff at instant speed, like Leyline of Anticipation, Steadfastness can just save you so much headache. Combat's a good place to start, and it's a common. If you are playing a Toughness Matters deck, this plus a way to give trample in any way, shape, or form, this is almost overrun by itself. So, again, the best homes I see for this are basically Toughness Matters, or finding a way to play this at instant speed and just blowing out your opponent if they try to kill stuff with combat. Devout Monk. Turn 1 Soul Warden effect. Turn 2 a Johnny's Pride Mate. Turn 3, let's say, well, now this is the optimal situation, but generically, turn 3, another Soul Warden effect, this, which coming into play would trigger Soul Warden, So this is now 4/4, plus comes into play gain a life, is another point. So now your Johnny's Pride Mate is attacking as a 5/5. A come into play tap land or some other land that comes into play and gains you life. Radiant Fountain comes to mind. This is now swinging as a 6-power creature on turn 3. And it's permanently 6 power unless somebody does something about the counters. Enjoy. Devoted Hero, Eager Cadet, and Knight Errant. Common. Excuse you. Common. Common. The biggest difference here is the creature types. Elf soldier, human soldier, human knight. I wish the devoted hero was an uncommon because this would make this make more sense. Because for 1 mana, you've got an eager cadet, which is a 1/1 with no abilities. For 2 mana, you've got a 2/2 with no abilities. Okay, I can wrap my brain around that. Then you've got devoted hero, which is a 1 mana 1/2, which already means that eager cadet is not worth playing. And knight errant is questionable. Devoted hero is basically taken Squire out to the back and gone, hey, by the way, I'm taking your lunch money. What? Again, the reason to play any of these is for flavor reasons. Knight errant, I'm playing Knight Tribal, maybe. Devoted hero, there's no reason to play Eager Cadet over Devoted Hero unless you're playing like Fisher Tribal or something. Vengeance feels about right based on on what else has been legal. Would in general play Angelic Purge over this. Because it exiles and it's got 3 different things it can hit. Again, much prefer my flexible removal. That being said, like this is it's still okay. Whatever what I said during Portal Second Age, Portal 3 Kingdoms, it's been printed like 4 times now, not counting regular sets. So like just in like the Portal starter sets, it's been printed 4 times at least. Venerable Monk. Again, the kind of card where you're comparing to, like, you're looking at flicker effects likely, but if you're doing that, you should be looking at cards like I think Holly mentioned, Irrational Cleric, whatchamacallit, Lone Visionary is is 1 mana less, 1 toughness less, but you gain 4 life instead of 2. If you're not flickering, but you are looking to gain life, regularly, then Venerable Monk is fine. Gerard's Wisdom. It is easy to have a full grip in Commander. So, the problem here is that in Portal 3 Kingdoms, there was a green card that cost an extra mana that said gain 8 life. Spring of Eternal Thirst or something like that. Spring of Eternal Peace. Was 5 mana, and you gained 8 life. The first part of casting a spell is, the first part is figuring out what you want to cast. The second part is taking the card and putting it on the stack. Actually, I might actually have that wrong. I'm going to have to double check that, but that's what I remember. Which means it's no longer in your hand when you go to count how many cards are in your hand. I know for sure the last part of the resolution of a instant or sorcery is putting the card into your graveyard. But this is why it says, in the reminder text, don't count this card, because it's not there. It's not in your hand when you're going to resolve it. You resolve this when you have 4 cards in hand. You have you're gaining 8 life. which is 1 mana, which is the same amount of life and 1 mana less than the spring was. But it's really easy to get extra cards in your hand in Commander. Howling Mines, Secret Rendezvous, and Esper Sentinel, and all sorts of stuff like that. There's enough ways to draw additional cards that gaining extra life off of this should be able to get you 10, 12 life fairly easily. At which point, what kind of deck are you putting this in? Gaining life just to gain life is a bad idea. Most of the time. There are some times when you want specifically life gain cards. But in general, they should be attached to something else. Lone Missionary comes up, for example, a lot in Pauper, because even if somebody's going lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt at you, lightning bolt does 3 damage. Lone Missionary gains you 4 life. So for 2 mana, I've got a 2/1 creature out. I've neutralized one of your lightning bolts and a third of a second one. And I still have a 2-power creature for 2 mana. So this is why you won't see people playing cards that just gain life very often. They will do something else. Campfire, also a good example. Pay 1, tap, gain 2 life. Primary reason that it's in there. However, 2, tap, and exile this artifact. Put all commanders you own from the command zone and from your graveyard into your library. Not going to be relevant unless you're playing Commander. Then shuffle your graveyard into your library. What? Shuffle your graveyard into your library. Oh, I'm up against a mill deck. I'm up against persistent petitioners. Thunk! Get everything back. And your opponent's great. Now I gotta wait another 3 turns before I can kill him. Or if your opponent's playing, there's that other mill version that's got High Tide and does a whole bunch of combo shenanigans and ends up with Stream of Consciousness, I think it is? No, Stream of Thought. Yeah, Stream of Thought. And often has 1, maybe 2 copies of this. And generates a whole bunch of mana and goes, how many cards you got left? Oh, 52? Okay, cool. Well, if you've got a Campfire in play, they can do that all they want. Then you go, pay 2, tap, exile, shuffle everything back in. You have to go through that all over again. By the way, how many Stream of Thought do you have left? It has Replicate, it doesn't have Flashback. So, cards that people generally play that gain life need to do more than just gain life, in general. However, if you're playing this in combination with cards like Soulbound, no, Soulbound? Nope. Sorry, Sunbond. Wow. If you're playing this in combination with cards like Soulbond, and I forget what the other white aura is called, cool, I gained 8 life. Well, I have Sunbond in play, so then suddenly that's 8 plus 1 counters on this creature, and now I swing for like 15 or whatever. And that's why you play that. Angelic Blessing. I've mentioned this before, this is now an activated ability on some planeswalkers. Or you can get this close to this effect for a lot less. I think you can get +2/+2 in flying for like 1 or 2 mana at instant speed. Sacred Nectar. Don't play this. Play Lone Missionary instead. Or go back to, you're playing green. Run, where are you? I saw you. I don't see you now. Why do I not see you? Why do I not see you? Was it not this set? Oh, yeah, marshaling the troops. Yeah, run marshaling the troops instead. Tap a bunch of your creatures and then gain life for, gain 4 life for each creature you tap that way. So if you tap 2 creatures, you gain 8 life. Much better card. Path of Peace. 4 mana, destroy target creature. Its owner gains 4 life. Again, trying to port Swords of Plowshares over to the portal sets and starter sets. This is fine. It's not great. There's better removal for 4 mana, and actually at 4 mana you shouldn't be even looking at spot removal anymore. Realistically, you should be starting to consider mass removal. You should be starting to look at like Wrath of God kind of effects. If you're looking at spot removal at 4 mana, get flexible spot removal. Get something like Oblivion Ring. Get something like, Oblivion Ring, Bashing Light, um, and I've already forgotten what it's called. Oh, Angelic Purge. Um, Looking into other colors. Again, Aftershock is one of my favorites because it can kill just about pretty much anything. Um, yeah, just skip the Path of Peace. It's not worth it. Blue. One of the few ways that you can find in blue to gain life. If the difference so 5 mana sorcery, if the difference between your life total and target player's life total is 5 life or less, exchange life totals with that player. Do you know how funny it is to find a card whose best counters are either, you know, are either, damn it, are either somebody gaining life or somebody losing life? Wait, what? Yeah. If there's like 3 life total difference between, between you and me, and I play Psychic Transfer on you, it's like, let's say you got 3 more life than I do. You'll be like, can I find a way to gain 3 life so that makes the difference 6? Or can I burn you for 3? Can you burn me for 3? So the difference is 6 or more. What? Yeah. You can gain life off of this. Not easily, but you can gain life off of this. And again, if you're looking to do weird stuff, I would bring you to, my mono blue ramp deck that tries to play like a green deck, and it does have, where are we here? It has life tap in here specifically to combine with Yavimaya Cradle of Growth. And then whenever my opponents tap their lands, I gain 1 life each. If you're looking for something of that nature, yeah, Psychic Transfer requires timing, but it's doable. Windsail. One or two target creatures gain flying till end of turn. Reasonable. Not great, but reasonable. Would much prefer this over jump or um, flight. In fact, I think you can even get that as a cantrip for 1 mana. But this is about as much as I'm willing to go and give only a couple of creatures flying till end of turn. Any more than this, I want to be giving all my creatures flying permanently. I want levitation. I want wonder. I want archetype of imagination. I want something to give all my creatures flying. But at this cost, this feels like about right for what I want. If this is the kind of effect I'm looking for, this is fine. Sea Eagle. See, no pun intended, what I said earlier about the white version of this card, the Royal Falcon. Sea Eagle, it's the exact same card in blue. Already power crept in the game's ancient history by Stormcrow, a heavily derided card. This is worse. Water Elemental. 5 mana for 5/4. Not an amazing card, but it's still a fine card. You know, if you're, as far as a blue vanilla creature is concerned, this is actually fine. As far as a blue vanilla creature is concerned, this is actually fine and serviceable. And probably about as big as you're going to get for a vanilla blue creature, because usually, a 5/5, a 6/6 has got something else going on. Touch of Brilliance. First of all, you get this ability for 1 mana less, as Council of the Soratami, as Divination, as, a few other cards. And for half a mana more than that, i.e. 2 blue plus 1 rather than 1 blue plus 2, you can get better than that with, I Can See You, Secrets of the Golden City, which can potentially draw you 3 cards. Also, for blue plus 2, you can regularly get at sorcery or instant, often instant, draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards unless you discard a land card, instant, creature card, artifact card, something. Commonly, that's 3 mana. Don't play Touch of Brilliance unless you really specifically need to draw exactly 2 cards. Kaya, I apologize. Again, unless you've got a specific reason to play this specifically, just don't. Snapping Drake has been kicked to the curb by Phantom Monster because Phantom Monster is now common. Exact same cost, 1 more toughness, and Phantom Monster has since been kicked to the curb by cards like Genie Wildseeker? Jin? Nope. Genie. Windseer. 4 mana, 3/3 flying, comes into play, scry, some number. So, yeah, Snapping Drake, not worth playing. Well, Drake Tribal, you might have to, but there's probably better that you can do. Ingenious Thief. Compared to Sea Eagle, a much better card. Same cost, same size, same ability. When it enters, look at target player's hand. It's not an amazing card, and I'm sure I mentioned this during Portal. It's not an amazing card, pardon me, but it's much better. Oh, Visordrix. Blue +6 for 6/6 Rabbit Beast. Yes, Rabbit, not Rabid, although it might also be Rabid. So 7 mana for 6/6, 5 mana for 5/4. So +1/+2 for 2 more mana, but easier to cast. Because this blue kind of would polymorph into 2 colorless, so this would be blue +5. So kind of for an extra mana, you're getting an extra +1/+2. Visordrix, as far as blue... Hello? What just happened? Oh. That was this one. Am I still there? Yeah, I'm still here. Okay. Sorry. Just came up saying, reconnecting to chat for Twitch. Anyway, but yeah, Visordrix is fine. It's not amazing, but for a blue vanilla creature, it's pretty decent. Again, been kicked to the curb many times already with things like Tolarian Terror, but if you're looking for big vanilla creatures, it's still not bad. Ransack. Odd card. I don't think I covered this during Stronghold. Let's take a quick look at Stronghold real quick. STH Ransack. Oh, yes. We did. Okay. So what I said there would still apply. This is basically the progenitor like Fact or Fiction, except A, the cards go to the bottom of library instead. Okay. Cards either. This is basically, if you target yourself, it's Scry 5. If you target somebody else, it's Fate Seal 5. And regardless of how you play it, it's going to be good. But like the ability to look at 5 cards and just get rid of stuff that you don't want is going to be kind of nice. 4 mana. Oh great, I'm hitting a land clump. Oh great, I'm hitting a bunch of land. Just being able to reorganize the top 5, that in of itself is already good. Taking stuff that you don't want and putting it at the bottom is great. It's going to be fun. Extinguish, again, this is envelop for an extra mana. Don't bother. I Spy, covered this during Pearl's Second Age. Look at the top card of the target player's library. You may put that card into the graveyard. It's fine. It's kind of Thought Scour. Like, this is like half a Thought Scour, but you can leave it where it is. But it's like, No, this is like half a ponder, I think. At which point, why don't you just play ponder and effects like ponder? You, you, there's, I don't see a good reason to play that. Coral eel, again. Fish tribal, maybe. Um, just 2-1 for 2 for the long time was what you had to work with for blue. I think we can finally get 2-2 for 2 at common now. I know we can get 1-2 unblockable for 1 at common. Power equal to toughness equal to mana value equal to ID equal blue. Date greater than 2020. Oh, and rarity common. We got a 2-1 that transforms into a 1-2. Apart from that, nope. But you can get a 2-2 for double blue. Yeah, you're still not getting a 2-2 for 2. Nope. They all do something. Higher rarity, they have something else going on. Lower rarity, they've got a drawback attached. So yeah, a vanilla. This feels like a 2-2 for 2 is doable. They just think it's like counterspell. And I know I've said this before. Counterspell to me is one of those cards that's I I feel like they think it's balanced properly, but it's too strong. This is why they keep finding ways to reprint counterspell without reprinting counterspell. Uh yeah, might have to. Black cards. Serpent Warrior has been kicked to the curb by now. I think now you get a 3/3 flyer with this ability. It's not terrible. It's just not as good as it used to be. If you're playing a Snake Tribal deck, you might be interested in playing it. But generally speaking, nah. I think I covered that during Portal as well. Torment. Torment is such a weird card because this is not an ability that, like, this used to be an ability that Black would get occasionally. Is some kind of card that, like, permanently buffs or lowers the creature's power. But it's not really a thing anymore. You know, it's going to hit both stats. Like, as a reduction, it's going to hit both stats. And as or it's just going to kill the creature outright. Yeah, this is more the sort of thing that you see in blue these days. Doesn't mean it's bad, it's just very unusual. And if you're looking for unusual cards, but again, you'd be looking for unusual cards. Stronghold Taskmaster. You play Stronghold Taskmaster in a deck where it's the only black creature in the deck. What? You play it in a deck where it's the only black creature in the deck. Doesn't mean it has to be the only creature, just the only black creature. Do point out that cards that have devoid technically are considered colorless. So ID equal black, color equals C, toughness greater than 0. So Abundant Maw, for example, is colorless. Actually, what's got devoid? Oh, here we go. Bearer of Silence. It's got black at its cost, but it has devoid, which means while it's in play, like this is considered a colorless card everywhere except deck building. Bismuth Mindrender, same idea. It has devoid, so therefore it has no color anywhere except during deck construction. So therefore, even though it's black to cast, it's considered a colorless card. Dominant Drone, same idea. Dread Defiler, same idea. You get the idea. Kozilek's Translator, I actually like that card. You know. But, yeah, so if you're playing with a bunch of creatures that have devoid, this doesn't affect them. So, there are ways to build around that. Plus, of course, you know, artifact creatures and creatures that are other colors instead of black. Mind Warper. This is like the... This reminds me of the spikes. The difference here is you're starting off with a 3/3 that you can shrink. To make people discard cards. I'm not entirely fond of this deck. If I'm doing this, I would probably generally rather play with a card like Fugue. You know, 1 extra mana makes somebody discard 3 cards all at once. However, A, +1/+1 counters. So, you know, there's ways to make those. You know, there's ways to work with that. Actually, I want to set you back to that. B, you can split this up because it's you discard a card, you discard a card, and you discard a card. C, target player. You can target yourself with it. Now that will be 7 mana to make you discard a card, but the option exists. Not the worst card, but Fell Imp. Oh, I've mentioned this card before, back during Stronghold, I think it was. Wait, why am I looking at Stronghold again? Oops. Wow. I should be looking at black first. Let's try this again. Okay. Wow. I'm doing well tonight, aren't I? Where are you? Boop. Boop noodle. Doo 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 doo. Howling Fury. This is basically a static Hell from Beyond. It's 2 mana less than Hell from Beyond for this size. Hell from Beyond, 1 black plus X. Target creature gets +X/+0 to end a turn. It was an instant. This is a sorcery because starter sets. Hey, let's make them all sorceries. But +4/+0 to end a turn, which is quite a healthy amount. Serpent Warrior, we did already. Dark Offering. Portal Second Age had the same card. We also covered a similar card when we did Portal 3 Kingdoms. In fact, where are you here? Portal 3 Kingdoms. Destroy target non-black creature, gain 3 life, was Poison Arrow. It's the same card. Just, no. You want to blow up a creature and gain life. For this much mana, first of all, for this much mana, why are you dealing with spot removal? Second of all, if you are doing spot removal, this much mana, it should be target creature, not target non-black. Dagmor Scorpion, you now have 2 twos for 2 at common with a relevant creature type with abilities, I believe, at common. Again, the reason to play this is because the Scorpion type or something else mentioned this during Portal Second Age. General rule of thumb, there's better. Chorus of Woe. Again, Portal Second Age had this. It's fine. I'm not thrilled with it, but, you know, if an effect like this, I'm going to want to spend a couple more mana and get more power out of it. The big thing about an effect like this is if you've got, say, 6 creatures in play, for 1 black you're getting +6 power. So if you've got 3 creatures that are unblocked, that's 3 extra damage getting through. But if you can spend 3 mana, let's say, and get +2 power, you know, creatures you control get +2/+0 till end of turn. Then that's an extra 6 damage getting through. Hollow Dogs, again, the same kind of math that we did before about when like Ishin and attack triggers and all that other jazz. In a deck of that nature, this is more interesting. Otherwise, just get a 5/3. Massive Ghouls. For 2 black +3, you have a 5/3 with no abilities. Which is basically going to be this. Dagmor Ghoul. A card I am more interested in. When it enters, target opponent loses 2 life, you gain 2 life. I think it's Highway Robber? Yeah, Highway Robber. When it enters, target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. 4 mana for 2/2. Target opponent loses 2 life, you gain 2 life. Exact same card, just different creature type and a more relevant creature type because it's a zombie. So zombie decks, if you're looking to drain, might have an interest in that. Dread Reaper, 6 mana for a 6/5 flyer. When it enters, lose 5 life. Covered this during Portal. It's a okay creature. 6. Keep in mind, at that point, 6 mana for a 6/5 flyer was pretty. That was a lot. And this, are you the biggest creature in this color? The biggest creature with a static stats. Got it. So nowadays that would be, 6 mana for a 6/5 flyer. Well, if it's legendary, you'd probably get a 6/6 with something else going on, like flying and trample or something, because you're also playing triple black for it. Um, it is easy to get that 5 life back, or to compensate for that 5 life. So I wouldn't be completely unhappy with this. Um, you know, Playing Christopher Rush Tribal would be hilarious. It's a shame he's no longer around. Um, Unfortunately, you can't play Black Lotus which is the card he is best known for, because it's banned in Commander, largely due to its dollar value. Shrieking Spectre, 6 mana, 2/2 flyer. When it attacks, defending player discards a card. Just know, you want an effect like this, you should be playing Hollow Spectre, Hypnotic Spectre, Abyssal Spectre, any of those first. 6 mana for a 2/2 flyer, almost regardless of what else it has. Don't play. Just don't. You should not be paying 6 mana for a 2/2 flyer most of the time. If you are, you've got some other specific, like it's got some crazy good ability. But just don't. Stream of Acid. This is B Foul ported over to um, starter. Destroy target not black land or non-black creature can't be regenerated. Destroy target land or non-black creature. No regeneration clause. This is effectively the same card, because regeneration realistically has been kicked to the curb by Indestructible. It is a rare card that has regeneration these days that people have any interest in playing. Wolverine, the best there is one of them. But it's a rare card otherwise that turns around and says, yeah, no, just regenerate. So this is basically an extra Befal. If you're in the market for Befal, here's a String of Acid. Here's a duplication of effect is commonly a good thing. Dakmor Plague. Cover this during Portal's Second Age. 3 damage to each creature and each player is not bad. This is basically Pestilence for 3. So that's fine. Pharaoh Shadow. Pharaoh Shadow in of itself is bad. The only reason you really want to play Pharaoh Shadow is because you want to do the combo with Pharaoh Shadow plus Breath Stealer plus Urborg Panther to fetch up Night Stalker, Spirit of the Night. No, Night Stalker. It is a Night Stalker. The only reason, because Breath Stealer is okay by itself, Urborg Panther is okay by itself. Pharaoh Shadow is... you can do so much better than that. Spirit of the Night is the card that you... Spirit of the Night is the reason to play them. Red cards. Hulking Ogre. 3/3 can't block. You should get... Hey Aku, Venturing Clique. I think it boils down to why you want to play it. In general, I'm not opposed to it. But there's got to be that's one of those cards that it's like, what is the reason I'm putting it in my deck for? And sometimes Vendilion Cleek. I'm sure I'm spelling it wrong. Yeah, it's 1L, not 2. It's a prime reason I'm playing it is because it's a 3 mana, 3 power flash flying creature. To play it after someone vampire tutored in my end step to play in their draw step after they draw a card to make some roll 504. Oh. You don't need to play Vendilion Clique for that. I'm not saying don't play Vendilion Clique. I'm just saying you like there's other cards that you can run to do that. Um I mean, I was just going to point out something like Howling Mine. Cuz Howling Mine says, at the beginning of your draw step, and so that means that it's a triggered ability. Players can respond to triggers, so if you don't want somebody to draw an extra card for whatever reason, you can go, oh, triggered ability, counter it. Or, oh, look, triggered ability, copy it. Which I think would be a better option, personally. And people are going to go, wait, what? Yeah, it's triggered ability. Yes. Technically, we shortcut a lot of things. Same with upkeep. People tend to simply bypass the upkeep because it's most people are not playing with cards that do anything on upkeep. So same with the end step, to be honest. A lot of people just they don't have anything that happens. It's like, cool. End of turn, done. Maybe they discard down a hand size during cleanup. But a lot of people just are not aware of stuff like that. Person was playing on Mox and he was doing the automatically untap and draw for his turn. Well, if you if you say that he messes up keep triggered, so now he's got to sacrifice his creature. Some people, I'm not saying everyone, some people might see that as a bit of a dickish way to handle it. Um, but I would turn around and say, hey, by the way, you missed your upkeep trigger. This has to happen before you can draw for turn. Yeah, Glacial Chasm. I mean, to be fair, isn't Glacial Chasm on the, whoops. It is a game changer now. So you got to be careful about that one too. Um, eh. To be fair, it's also a question of whether or not they're familiar with playing. Like, a lot of people will download a deck list off of something like Goldfish, for example. MTG Goldfish, let's say. Download the deck list and just be trying it out and not actually be familiar with how a lot of the cards actually work. So, like, it's unfair to look at the card you are trying to see if you can bring the land back from the grave than to pay the cost. I mean, yeah, the unfortunately I also see a lot of people playing the game like untap, draw, upkeep, which is incorrect. But I see a lot of people doing that. Even in videos, I'll see them. I'll see some people doing that, and it's like, that's what are you, what are you doing? No, just so it's you also got to remember a lot of people only know how to play Magic because they got dragged into Commander. That's the only way they know how to play Magic. And so, since Commander is supposedly a more casual format, no, but it's if it's what everybody else that you hang out with, if it's the only way they know, like the only way they actually play the game. I'm not saying right. I'm not saying. I'm just like, for example, one of my former roommates. She was living here when COVID hit, and so we couldn't really go anywhere else. And so other events weren't really firing, and so we'd play Commander at home. And it's how she learned how to play the game was because of Commander and because of the shutdowns. She eventually started getting interest in other formats, but that's where she started. And expecting her to remember a lot of, like, again, upkeep is not something that happens in a lot of games. People having um, priority during draw step is not something that happens in a lot of games. It's something that players have to get used to. And yes, I understand they've got to be aware of it, but it's also a matter of how you go about it. So I'm not gonna. I'm not. I might suggest a different path, but that also depends on what you're actually trying to accomplish. So, there's too many. There are way too many weird roll cards. Um, cause, cause you can find ways to. You can find ways to make people do pretty much anything. Um, actually, even some of the cards from some of the Portal sets are like, um, you know, on your turn before you attack, you may, tap this creature to do this effect. And one of the steps that commonly gets missed is the beginning of combat. Um, Another thing is Maze of Vith to activate during the end of combat step to give your creature a pseudo vigilance. Um, if you really want to do weird stuff, you can play with, yeah, if you really want to do weird stuff, um, play with cards that have madness and have too many cards in your hand. And then at the end of turn, when you go to cleanup, well, you have to discard cards. While you're discarding with madness, exactly. If you're if you're really going for that sort of thing, like what happens if you madness obsessive search? You'll draw an extra card. Well, then you have to discard again. Like there are honestly, I think the best thing for you to do if that's the sort of thing that you're going for is grab the comprehensive rules and just take a look at how the turn order breaks down. Forget the details because it sounds like you already know the details. Oh yeah. Because it just cares about a card being milled, not whether or not it actually ended up in your graveyard. Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you could probably Google weird magic interactions. Anywho, hulking ogre. I would have covered you during Urza's Destiny, I'm sure. Again, ogre tribal is probably where you'd have to play this. But I mean, ogre warrior 4, which I already would have covered during Portal's Second Age. One extra mana, no restriction. If you've got a way to remove abilities from creatures, then this is better. But I mean, power equals 3. ID equal red. Okay, so there's a 3/3 at uncommon. Go away. And then sort by mana value. Belligerent of the ball, I would play first. Flailing Ogre, maybe. Oh yeah, Kelzo's Toe Collector is a common that's better than... no, not necessarily. Potentially better. Soken's Renegade? Maybe. Unsparing Boltcaster. Oh yeah, Hoarding Ogre. Okay, no, now you're looking at 4 drops. Because before you had a 4 drop with no abilities. Ogre Warrior, now you're looking at 4 drops at common, which are 3/3s or 3/4s with abilities. Oh yeah, Sawtooth Ogre. This deals 1 damage to that creature at the end of combat. If you want to play with something more than just Maze of Ith to do at the end of combat, Sawtooth Ogre. Org. 7 mana for a 6/6. This is the same as Visardrix. But just you can... Nah, I wouldn't. Because for 7 mana you can do... Like again, if you're looking at vanilla creatures, you should be able to, like, you should be able to do better than 12 combined parent toughness. Hulking Goblin used to be decent back in the day. Not great, but decent, because it's a 2 mana 2/2. Now you can get this with a useful ability instead of, can't block. Goblin Cavaliers. Again, back in the day, this was okay. It's meh now. You should be getting this plus some ability added on. First strike when attacking or whatever. Earth Elemental. The same problems that Water Elemental ran into. It's about the right size for back then. It just... For 5 mana, a 4/4 flyer. Or not a 4/4. Well, for 5 mana, you can get a 4/4 flyer. I think you can even get a 4/4 flyer with haste. Because you're getting dragons at that cost. So, Elemental Tribal, maybe. Jagged Lightning. The only reason to play this is because you want to hit two different things, like Brash Taunter and I can't remember what the Minotaur is called. Boros Reckoner or something of that nature. Apart from that, you'd be better off running, um, you'd be running Aftershock or Fissure or Lava Flow or something and just kill the creature outright. Scorching Spear, why? I said during Portal, why? There's no good reason to run this. Goblin Hero. Pardon me. Goblin Hero. Again, no good reason to play this. I mentioned this even during the dark. You don't play Goblin Hero unless you've got a really strong overriding reason. The fact that it's a goblin helps a little bit, but for this, you can get Mountain Walk added on. Or something at the same rarity. Fire Tempest. This is Inferno. Boop. 6 damage to each creature and each player for 7 mana as an instant. 6 damage to each creature and each player for 7 mana as a sorcery. This is Lava Flow compared to Fissure. If you're looking to deal damage, this will deal a lot of damage. The problem this ends up with is you are also at the point where you're looking at Starve Extinction. So 7 mana. 7 mana. Destroy target land. 20 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. This will wipe the board of more stuff. This will hit players. I'm not going to say one's better than the other. They have, again, they have different functionality. Which do you want? Goblin Commando, 5 mana, 2/2, comes in play, 2 damage to target creature. That feels like too much for what it does. Where was the red one here? Black, red. Yeah, 4 mana, 4/2/2, 2 damage to 1 creature. Five mana, 4/2/2, 2 damage to 1 creature. Just no. Again, you don't have a good reason to play this. You play this if you are playing some odd theme. Goblin Chariot. 3 mana for a 2/2 with haste. 3 mana for a 2/2 with haste. Misprinted as rare. Same set, same rarity, same cost, same size. This has haste. Play the Chariot instead. Goblin Glider. Not a terrible card. You're playing goblins, it's fine. It's not great, but it's fine. 2 mana for a 1/1 flyer that can't block. You know, you're building a deck around flyers and you're playing red. You might have to do it. Mons Goblin Raiders. Or as we used to call it, Mom's Goblin Cookies. Because there's, a company called Dad's, DAD apostrophe S, and they made cookies, so they were Dad's Cookies. So these are Mom's Cookies, but, Mom's Goblin Cookies. Yeah. Again, it was fine, but you can get a 1/1 with haste for that, and nowadays you can do so much better. Fire Elemental, I mean, she runs into the same problem that Earth Elemental did. If you're playing elementals, again, you might have to, if you're playing elementals and you're playing red, you might have to run her, but probably wouldn't. Cinderstorm, no. Do not play Cinderstorm. 7 damage to a target. The only reason you play this over a card like Lava Flow, which is, I believe, also in the same set. Where exactly is Lava Flow? Portal. Okay. The only reason to play this over Lava Flow is because you want to be able to hit Planeswalkers or battles. Because realistically, those are the only things that Lava Flow can't hit. Oh, this also burns an opponent for 7. But if you're looking to burn your opponents, run Fire Tempest. Slightly more difficult to cast. Eats much of the board and burninates all your opponents. You too, but it's much better card. Green. Squall. Apparently, was listed as 2 mana, should actually be 3. 2 damage to each creature with flying. Does not hit players, sadly. If it hit players, this would be my mono green burn deck. Does not hit players. I'm sad. That being said, 3 mana, 2 damage to each creature with flying is not bad. Just, I would recommend, like, I'd keep the starter 99 for collection's sake, but I would play the Masks or 7th edition version instead for actual accuracy. Then you don't end up with people complaining, you're running the 1/1 or this, that, whatever. It's like, save headaches. It's still okay, but it'll burn away it'll burn away a bunch of small creatures and leave more room for the big ones to fight in, you know. Southern Elephant, we covered that during P3K. It's fine. It's not great, but it's fine. At 4 mana, you're getting 4/4 vanillas now, so again, you don't play that without good reason. Moonsprite, compared to the white and blue versions, this I am more okay with because green really didn't get much in terms of flying creatures. It wasn't really in green's wheelhouse, so this is more an acceptable thing. 2 mana for a 1/1 flyer in green is okay. That being said, you should be able to start looking at better, there are better cards than that. If I pull up my mono green, my Dosan list, for example, which is based around being able to attack with flying creatures. Bayou Dragonfly, for example. Exact same card, but it's also got Swamp Walk. Emerald Dragonfly, activated for a strike. If you're willing to wait 4 turns, this is a 3/3. Scribe Ranger. Flash, protection from blue, and you can return a force you control to his hand to untap target creature. Pay for and sack this to destroy target artifact. So there's already like, what, 5? 1, 2, 3. There's at least 4 cards that I would consider strictly better because they do the exact same thing, but more for the same cost. So I would play those before I played Moonsprite. Again, you know, are you playing a Therese Nielsen deck? Are you playing a Green Fairy deck? You know, reasons like that give you more reason to play it over something else. However, if you're just looking at it as a 1/1 flyer in green, even at 2 mana, there's at least 4 options that are better than that because they're the same but do more. Wild Ox, talked about that during Portal's Second Age. 3/3 Swamp Walk. Black and green being such highly played colors in Commander. This is going to get through for damage quite often. Norwood Archers. 1 mana more than Nessian Courser, but it has reach. This is basically, as I mentioned during Portal's Second Age, this is basically Giant Spider with its stats slightly adjusted. So a 3/3 instead of a 2/4. So, you know, move a point of power to a point of toughness or vice versa. And a generically more relevant creature type. You know, and Giant Spider is still a fine card. You know, would not complain if somebody played this. In fact, I think I may have considered it for my Lateral Elves deck or my Commons Elves deck. I forget which. I know I looked at it at one point and considered it. It's still fine. Bull Hippo. We're basically looking at Wild Ox versus, you know, Wild Ox having Swamp Walk versus Bull Hippo having Island Walk. Blue is less commonly played. It's commonly played in combination with something else. It's rare. It's unusual to see it played on its own. It can be, but it's unusual to see it played on its own. It's played a bit more on its own now because now you've got Harbinger of the Tides. I think that's what it was called. No, Harbinger of the Seas? Yeah, Harbinger of the Seas. Which turns non-basic lands into islands. Which would make this get through for damage more. But Island Walk is... Honestly, I would be more likely to play the Wild Ox just because it's going to get through for damage more often than the Bull Hippo. Willow Elf doesn't do anything. It's a 1 mana 1/1 elf that has no abilities. Unless you're playing this for, again, some other reason like a Tutor Lizzie deck or no. Dirkwood Boars, this should be a 4-drop nowadays. I know for double green plus 2 you can get 4/4s with abilities at common. So this should be I think this is a 5/4 or no 5/5 by now. Actually, I know even in red you can get 5 mana 5/5s with stuff. So, um, yeah. Unless you want to be boring, or maybe the flavor text. This comes from the Bible. Is the fact that the Bible is mentioned in flavor text, is that relevant to you? Natural Spring, again, same thing as mentioned in Portal Tempest, Portal Second Age. Don't. There's better cards than this that cost less, that can gain. You can gain 8 life for, like, I think it's 2 mana and wait a couple of turns or something. Um, and wait, like, or just get like a healthy sized creature with vigilance and lifelink or something. There's just so many more ways to gain 8 life. Uh, Barb Tooth Worm. This is where green starts showing that, you know what, its creatures can be better than those in days past. Because in Alpha, you had Crawworm, which was 2 green plus 4 for 6/4 with no abilities. Now you've converted a colored mana to a colorless mana and kept the size. It doesn't sound like it's a lot of difference, but this now gives it the ability to go, 2 green plus 4 for maybe a 6/5 or a 6/6. Um, in fact, what's the meme one right now? Uh, it's a 6/6 trample. Now mana value equals 6. Mana for Colossal Dreadmaw. The annoying thing is I can hear Carl from Card Market, introducing it. Always sounding like really excited. But we're at the point where like even Colossal Dreadmaw is being told, hey, by the way, you're not good enough anymore. Sort by rarity. You know, there's the Blam T-Raxor, which is the same size and everything else, but it's got 4 cycling, comes in play game 3. There's the Colossal Dreadmask, which is giving the equipped creature the same ability. Greater Tanuki is almost the same size, but you can channel it to pull a basic land into play. This is very easily an 8/8 because all you have to do is have a land in your graveyard. Okay, I'll play Evolving Wilds. This is almost the same size, but it's got cycling. This is almost the same size, but also has reach and cannot be blocked by flyers. This is bigger and has 4 cycling. This is the same size. Legendary. Also has reach, also has ward. This is, again, almost the same size, but additionally has reach and force cycling. Almost the same size and has basic land cycling. So, yeah. Um, um, Barbed-tooth worm. Again, if you're playing vanilla, maybe, but probably would not generally. Sylvan Yeti. Talked about this during Portal's second age. Being able to draw a bunch of cards is pretty easy, but again, this doesn't do anything apart from be big. Uh, if being big is enough for you, cool. If you have if you have 4 cards in hand, this is a 4 mana 4/4. I think, honestly, I think having an almost full grip is about where I want this to be. Otherwise, it's just meh. Renewing Touch. Shuffle any number of target creature cards from your graveyard into your library. Talked about this in Portal Second Age. Honestly, I like this card. It's I almost wish it was uh I almost wish this targeted player. I think the wording would have been a little more complicated than they wanted for Portal or first Portal or Starter. But I wish this targeted a player instead. It's still a decent card though. You know, being able to shuffle any number of creatures from your graveyard back into your deck is, you know, especially if somebody's playing mill. It's like, cool. Pay a green, get like half my library back or half my graveyard back into my deck. Ugh, really? I have to go through all that again? Yeah, you have to go through all that again. And you can choose, because it's any number of target creatures, you can choose which ones you want. You can leave certain ones like Wonder and Brawn and whatever in there. And whoops. And color. Yeah, and that's it. And I'm gonna call it for tonight because that is now 2 sets done, which I did not expect. But 2 sets done. I'm going to call it here. I'll have to fix things up somehow. And apart from that, we'll see you guys next week. And that will be Starter 2000. Wee! Good night, folks.